Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you having me in to talk to you today. I'm Elizabeth Bistany. I'm the Director of School Nutrition for Salem for the school district. And what we do is essential to kids learning. It is an integral part of them being able to learn in the schools. Interestingly, this program, the National School Lunch Program, came about as a reaction to the fact that we couldn't get, or we had a lot of men who were rejected for service during World War II and unable to serve the country. So it came up as a matter of national security, pretty much, for the country. It was there was a law signed in 1946 by Harry Truman that created the National School Lunch Program, were run by the USDA, the Food and Nutrition Services Division, and the School Breakfast Program was actually brought in 1966. As a matter of fact, when that was brought in, it was President Johnson that actually said that good nutrition is essential to good learning. And I know that we've all heard the quote, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. One of the acts that we're trying to get through Congress right now in New Hampshire is to establish the school as a place to get both breakfast and lunch for students so that they do have the ability to learn. They can focus in their classrooms and not worried about where their next meal is coming from. Right now, we have programs in place that allow some students to get free or reduced meals. Unfortunately, the eligibility guidelines set by the USDA are very, very low. You have to be at less than 130% of the federal poverty level to be able to receive free meals at school. What does that mean? What does that translate to? A family of 4 in this school year has to be lower than $40,560 for their family to qualify for free meals. I can't even imagine trying to raise a family of 4 on $40,000, and that's gross. That's not net. It doesn't take into account any of the housing costs, any of the clothing costs, any of the food costs. That is gross. You hand me your pay stub, I look at the gross. If it doesn't fall below that, your family of 4 doesn't qualify. For reduced price meals, a family of 4 is roughly 130 to 185% of the federal poverty level, but for a family of 4, that only means $57,000. Think of a mortgage in this day and age. You think of trying to have an automobile that actually you can drive your kids to and from school or to an athletic event or a practice or something like that. It doesn't take into account any of the other daily living expenses that these families have. COVID, for us, we were fortunate in that we were able to get some extra monies. There was federal funding, state funding that went in and helped to feed everyone. It would be great to be able to go back to that. Unfortunately, that has all been cut. There are states around us that do have free meals for all students, breakfast and lunch. Massachusetts is one of them, Vermont is another. Unfortunately, I don't think we will ever see that in New Hampshire. What I would like to see and what I would ask your help with is to be able to get some of the very important bills that we have in. If you know anybody in the Congress locally on the state level, there are House bills, one that makes Medicaid a factor in getting families qualified for free and reduced meals. Right now, the only direct certification of those families that are on SNAP, which is supplemental nutrition assistance. If we could get it passed so that Medicaid was also a parameter for offering the free and reduced meals, that would cut out the stigma that comes from filling out an application and sending it in with your child. We do offer online and interpretation services online so that it can be more of a private matter for families to go in and fill out their application, and nobody has to know at their school office, the teachers or anything like that. But it is still, unfortunately, a stigma that families have a hard time overcoming. And I think that especially since COVID, and I hate to use that benchmark, but it just is a benchmark for us in our industry, things have gotten harder for families. I know that everybody here has to go grocery shopping. If you go grocery shopping, you know how much the costs have gone up. It is up to the schools to provide the meals while the children are at school. There is another bill in looking at that itself, providing, right now, if you're part of the National School Lunch Program, you have to provide it for every student. But the school breakfast program is not a requirement. There is a bill, it's Senate Bill 205, that we're looking to require breakfast and lunch service to all students, which is, we do have a school breakfast program in Salem. However, it's not part of the school day. So when your kids come in, sometimes it's, do you want to go play outside at recess with your friends, or do you want to come in and get a meal? And you're a grade school child, you're not going to be picking, I really want to go in and eat, unless you really do need to go in and eat. Those are the kids that we feed every morning routinely. We would like to see more kids get in and eat, because even just taking that bus ride in from home, they may need something in their belly to learn before they can even focus on their class. Unfortunately, again, our school lunch debt has risen incredibly and exponentially since COVID, and I know that this is something that has been in the news for everyone. What are we going to do about it, and how do we solve the problem? Unless we are actively looking to collect that debt, the school district actually has to make up for that loss. So I'm just using a figure. This is not reflective of us. But say at the end of the 2025 school year, there's $10,000 in debt. Unless I am still actively collecting that money, and that means me on the phone making phone calls, my administrative assistant on the phone making phone calls, working with parents to get them eligible for meals. Unless we're actively doing that, that money has to come out of the general fund in the school budget, which is not something we want to see. This is a self-sustaining program, and we want it to continue to be a self-sustaining program. So anything that any of the community members or community groups can do to help offset that. We get donations from different groups. I got one this morning from, actually 3 different donations, which was very nice, for just those kids who have those high debts, that now we have the kids that fall through the cracks or have had a hardship in their family. The paid student debt, which means a child whose family does not qualify for any assistance through free or reduced meals, has risen, and is actually, we did a lot of collecting last year. It's actually fewer students owing more money than it was last year. So basically you have those families that are falling through the cracks, and that's what we're looking for assistance with, is to help those families.
What kind of breakfast are we talking about?
We offer a variety. At the high school in Woodbury, you have the largest variety. We have egg and sausage sandwiches, egg and bacon sandwiches. We have cereal. We have, at the high school and the middle school, we also offer things that kids can grab and take to their classroom. The Smuckers, what do they call them? Uncrustables. So we give them those main courses, their entrees, along with fruit, juice, milk, and that's what we're offering them. There is cereal, there are breakfast rolls or buns, muffins. We do also cater to, if the child has specific dietary needs, somebody who's gluten-free, dairy-free, we do offer those meals as well. And we work directly with the nursing staff and the parents so that we can make sure that we are covering all of those students. We would never want anybody, and we don't deny anyone a breakfast or a lunch, regardless of if they have money in their account or not, or they owe money on their account or not. We never deny them. We don't do what you've seen in the news with the meal shaming and taking the trays away, things like that. However, we do try to curb the debt by not allowing them to get a la carte or make purchases on their accounts, charging to their accounts. Things like they can come up and after meal service is done at lunchtime, they can come up and grab, a drink for later on, a Gatorade, a Powerade, whatever it might be. Or if they're playing a sport, if they want to grab one of those Uncrustables, things like that. For lunch, we have probably upwards of 10 choices for lunch at the high school, probably about 6 choices every day at the middle school, and they actually have 4 choices at the elementary schools. They'll have their rotating menu, and then they have a sun butter sandwich meal, a
Yogurt meal.
Oh, there we go.
I have two in elementary school.
Yep, yogurt meal, and then the grilled cheese meal, and there is a rotating menu, like I said, but every meal is served with milk, fruit, vegetable, grain, protein, all of those things that are required. And we are required to have certain amounts of certain things on that child's plate for it to be a reimbursable and federally funded meal.